you started as being independent way before most people can imagine. Now we're in an era where people are saying, "Man, why do we need a label anymore? We can release it digitally. Everyone can receive it and tour."
Yeah, but people say, I'm gonna tell you why people need labels. Because they're lazy. Because they're not gonna do the work. They're not gonna market, advertise, promote, distribute. They're not gonna do the records right. They're not gonna do music right. And they're not gonna spend the money. Most people don't want to, you know, people want other people to spend the money on their stuff, but they don't want to spend the money on it.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to invest in yourself. And, everybody, when I hear people say how record companies rip people off, no, they don't. Record companies are business machines that promote things to make a profit. And if you were a record company, what you're asking the record company to do, you wouldn't do it. Because if you did, you wouldn't stay in business long. So I'm not taking up for record companies. I'm just saying if you want to be a businessman, then you got to understand the mechanics of business and how to stay in business.
Yeah.
95% of African American small businesses, or 95% of all businesses in the United States for Black folk are small businesses and sole proprietors. That means they only have one employee. 95%. Something wrong with the way we think. Our business structure from a mechanical standpoint is off. But we don't have that conversation with each other, but we should.
I think that we released a compilation of different interviews I had where artists from the 90s were talking about how they didn't have successful dealings with their record label, and some of the audience were saying, why aren't there many Black-owned record labels that are like Motown? And I said, well, Motown got bought by Universal, BET got bought by Viacom, and when there's a Black-owned business that's successful, it gets taken over, and that's
it's not taken over. It's not taken over. A business is started so you can make money. It's plain and simple. It's capitalism.
Yeah.
At its best. And so, if I build a company that becomes so successful that somebody want to offer me 20 or 30 times or 50 times what I got into it, cha-ching. Come on. We're weirdos sometimes when it comes to business. It's almost like we think if you make money, you're the devil.
I think
I think if you don't use your talent,
yeah,
you're the devil.
No, and I think what happens for us, because it's really been, it's amazing listening to you, because you're very balanced in your point of views from starting a label from in the 80s, which, as I said, it was very rare. We laud Master P for doing stuff in the 90s, but you started it off so years or decades earlier. But then for us, we see music and art as a part of heritage, and it's hard for us to understand there is business, there are costs, the employees, record labels or have to adhere to.
We see it as heritage when it's not ours. That's the only time you see it as heritage. I promise you. When Berry Gordy is looking at it, he's looking at the bottom line, because heritage ain't gonna pay him nothing. And Black folk gonna always say what you should have done, but Black folk can't prove to me that they understand investment. We make up less than 1% of individual investors on the stock market in the United States. We're number one when it comes to consumption per capita. We're last when it comes to investment and speculation per capita. So I don't concern myself with that.
Mm.
I concern myself with making great music
Yeah.
and being a good businessman.
Yeah. And how different is do you feel the quality, or not just the quality, but what you put into your music is when you're not doing it to make money? Because does it make a difference in how, when there's no stress and you're not thinking I need to make this a hit because it gets to number one and I get a big income? Does it change the how you the effort and energy you put in?
I don't know what it does for anybody else because I don't understand. I mean, I don't know the process of making music for other folks. For me, I've never made a record and said, I'm going to make a bunch of money. I made records and say, I really think this is going to be a good record. I think people are going to like this. Or I wonder if people are going to like this. Or I hope people like this. But I've never made a record saying I need to make $1 million.
The whole sense of ownership, and Prince talking about the same thing about we've made all this music and we don't own our creativity and stuff. But it's amazing how you learn early
Right,
on.
but you don't give it away. You don't say that when you sign a contract and get that money.
Yeah.
Don't give it away.
But did you know because you started very early? I mean, because as I said, most artists I interviewed maybe almost 60 artists, and they didn't know anything about contracts. They didn't understand. They were writing. They didn't realize they signed all the
What
stuff
they
away.
didn't understand? That's why you have a lawyer. That's why you have a lawyer. That's why you have an accountant. That's why you have a manager. You got to pick people that are going to be on your side. It ain't a
Yeah,
good enough excuse for me.
yeah. Unfortunately, the lawyers were picked by the labels, and the manager was part of the yes, sign away this, and they didn't, they learned later on that it was given away.
Don't go to a lawyer that the label pick. Say thank you, but no thank you. I'll find my own.
Yeah, yeah. But when they pick
We're not
vulnerable,
babies. We're not. See, I don't. You gotta give me a better argument than that. It's not good enough.
yeah,
What I know is this. What I know is that artists are selfish, and when they want the deal, they'll do anything for it. And when they're not successful, everybody always talks about the successful artists. There's over 250,000 albums released every year. Over 250,000.
wow,
Less than 1% of them sell 2,500 units. Okay? Over 250,000 albums a year, less than 1% of them sell 2,500 units or more.
wow.
So, let's not, so if we're going to quantify it, let's quantify it by a real number. I'm not keeping up with record companies because record companies, they got their own little slouchy ways that I could talk about. But from a business standpoint, you can't talk about somebody wanting to own something that they paid for, that they marketed, that they promoted, that they advertised, that they spent money on your behalf, and now they're giving you a piece of that money. And the only skin you had in the game was recording the music. Now, on the backside of that, if I make a brilliant record and you don't do a good job of it, at a certain point in time, that record should come back to me. If the record does great, at a certain point in time, that record should come back to me.
Yeah.
We got to be fair on both sides, but you got to say that in your deal. But you can't say, a bad record company, good artists. The artists are the victims. No, sometimes the artists are horrible and egocentric, egotistical, maniacal, selfish.
Yeah. It's good to have both sides to it because, as I said, most of the every interview you've had is from the artist side. So to hear a balanced view of it, it's always good, because I guess if you're so desperate for the deal, you'd give away the house just to get the deal, and then it's afterwards you
Yes.
realize what I've done with it, and
but then you say, let's say that you didn't get the deal, and the record never came out, and all it did is sit on your shelf. People never heard it. Just your immediate friends will tell you how good the record is, but nobody ever hears it. You never make money. You end up working at McDonald's, or you end up being a shoe salesman, or you end up driving a truck. What you would say is, I wish I would have had somebody that would put this record out. I would have took anything for it.
Yeah.
The Eagles are mud.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, to press the notification bell so that you can be notified when we do have a new interview. Loads to come, but thanks a lot for watching.
I begin to